She lives here, but she doesn't pay rent. By Manon Lysette. I've been living in this apartment for 2 years now. 2 years without any weird shit happening. 2 normal fucking years. Has it been the best living experience ever? Probably not. I've dealt with everything from ants to rats to noisy neighbors to police sirens in the middle of the night. Hell, the lady in 3A came home to find her apartment broken into a couple weeks back. All of those things pale in comparison to what's been going on lately. There's some fucking weird shit that's been happening for the past couple of weeks, and it's all culminated in me firing my gun last night at a girl that keeps fucking showing up in my apartment. That's a little drastic, you're probably thinking. While you might be right about that, hear me out first, and then tell me if I'm overreacting. It started off with little things at first. Things I think we've all probably experienced once or twice in our lives. One morning, I got up and found a bowl on the counter. Just a regular bowl, sitting there. I was really confused, but figured I'd maybe forgotten it there when I unloaded the dishwasher the night before. I put the bowl back in the cupboard and went to the washroom. As soon as I got back into the kitchen to make my coffee, that fucking bowl was on the counter again. Man, I thought, must be tired. You know when you're distracted sometimes and you plan on doing something but you don't end up following through? I figured that's what happened with the bowl. I thought I'd put it away, but I hadn't. So, I lifted it off the counter and put it back in the cupboard. I turned around to start the coffee maker. By the time I turned to face the counter again, that fucking bowl was sitting there, as though mocking me. What the fuck? I murmured to myself. I'm too young to be senile, I thought. Pissed off at myself, I guess? I shoved the bowl back into the cupboard and slammed the door. And stay there! I yelled sternly. I never believed in that supernatural mumbo-jumbo, so it never occurred to me that something else might have been moving the bowl. I just figured since I hadn't had my morning cup of coffee, my brain was glitching out or some shit. I probably wouldn't have thought about the bowl again if it had stopped there, but it didn't. It wasn't the only incident, not by a long shot. The next day, I came back from the gym in desperate need of a shower. I usually hop in the shower at the gym, but the goddamn water main exploded or something, so I had to drive home enduring my own sweaty stink. So, anyways, I got home, jumped in the shower, and turned it on real hot and soothing. I like my water practically scalding hot, like pot sauna, pot shower. But then, as the shower walls fogged up, I noticed something. The outline of someone standing in the room. I could see the shape clearly through the misty air. It wasn't just standing in place either. It was moving around, bending over and everything. I grabbed a bar of soap and threw open the shower door, ready to defend myself. Steam trickled out of the bottom of my shower. Except the room was empty. The room was empty. My skin was covered in goosebumps despite the heat. Now, look, I know my horror tropes, okay? This is exactly the point in time where the audience is yelling at their screens because the protagonist is being a moron and the place is clearly haunted. But look, this isn't fucking Hollywood, okay? I didn't just move into a creepy old house with a dark history. I've been living in this apartment for a couple of years without any incident. Even if I believed in ghosts, which I don't, that's just not how hauntings work. You don't get a 2-year grace period before suddenly out of nowhere, boom, haunted. That's dumber than propping up a ladder and 2 unicycles. A few days passed with more incidents like that bowl bullshit. I'd put a dinner plate on the counter, turn around to find it missing. One time, I turned around and found a glass in its place. Hell, one of my beer bottles turned up in the fucking yogurt cup. I know I didn't bring yogurt into my house. I fucking hate yogurt. Another time, I saw a stain on the carpet one minute, and it was gone the next. Just a ton of weird shit like that. I tried not to think about it as I went to bed early that night. I had a construction gig across town the next day and wanted to get an early start. Problem was, I kept hearing music and chattering. No matter how many pillows I stuffed over my head, I could hear the sound annoying the fuck out of me. Fucking neighbors, am I right? I eventually got out of bed and stomped around my apartment, trying to find the source of the noise. I put my ear to each wall, but couldn't quite tell which neighbor was at fault. When my iratometer reached maximum, I just started banging on the walls to try and stop the shit. I got even more pissed off when my neighbor came knocking on my door, scolding me for all the banging. I tried to explain what I was doing, but when I invited her in to try and pinpoint where the music was coming from, I realized the apartment had gone quiet. I apologized, figuring whoever was making the noise had gotten my message and quieted down. After that, I thought I'd be able to get some shut-eye, right? But no. In the middle of the night, I was awoken by the sound of static and light pouring from the TV. I groaned and reached for the remote control, but it had gone missing. Groggily, I climbed out of bed and waddled to the TV stand, turning it off manually. Must have been a power outage, I thought. Sometimes when the power flicks off and on quickly, my old shitbox turns on. I tried to convince myself that's all it was. But in the light of all the rest of this shit, I was getting a little spooked. I crawled back in bed and wrapped my comforter tightly over myself. I must have been half asleep for less than a few minutes before I heard a crackle of the TV as it turned on a second time. Fuck, I groaned. This time I went straight for the power cord. I yanked it out of the wall and went straight back to bed. Fuck that shit, I need absolute silence when I sleep. Otherwise I'll wake up. Imagine my surprise, or rather my shock, when the TV turned on again. Son of a... I stopped. Hadn't I pulled the power cord from the wall? How was the TV still on? I squinted through the dark room, able to see the cord still in the wall from my angle. It must have been a dream, I thought. It was the only explanation. I dreamt I'd unplugged the TV. I moved to slip out of bed, but as I turned, I felt something cold against my side. The TV remote. Why was it in the bed with me? I must have knocked it off the nightstand somehow. I turned the TV off one final time, and dozed off with the remote still in my hand in case I needed to do it again. If all this shit wasn't bad enough, if malfunctioning TVs, disappearing kitchenware, and moving shadows weren't bad enough, I started finding weird shit on my coffee table. Weird as girly books like Pride and Prejudice and How to Be a Strong Female Influence in the Workplace. Those had to be a prank of some sort. I told a few friends about the bowls and shit, so I guess they thought to fuck with me. Not that it was all bad. See, I had a party one night, and this chick saw one of those books. "Oh, I didn't know you liked Gillian Flynn," she said, as she picked up the book. I smirked. "Are you kidding me? I love her shit." I'm not going to lie. I did kind of flip through the books real quick. Enough that I could feign a bit of knowledge without actually having read any of them. Enough that I could bag myself a sexy lady tonight. Once the party was over, I hosted a private little book club between the covers, if you know what I mean. And then there was 2 days ago. I was standing in my kitchen, annoyed by another session of take the coffee mug out and find it missing, when I suddenly spotted my mug across the kitchen. It was in the hands of a transparent-looking figure. She looked at me. I looked at her. She dropped the mug. It crashed on the ground and shattered into pieces. She was gone, and I had to clean up the mess. I had to clean up this fucking ethereal being's goddamn motherfucking mess. Last night was the worst incident yet. I'm not going to lie. I went to bed drunk, and I might have still been a little drunk when I woke up in the middle of the night. But look, drunk or not, I know what I saw. It doesn't matter how much alcohol you ingest, you don't hallucinate turning over in your bed and seeing someone lying next to you. You might forget who's lying down next to you when you go to bed, but you don't just imagine someone that wasn't there at all. Point being, I woke up for whichever reason. Maybe a car horn outside, maybe my upstairs neighbours were trampling on the ground again, or maybe someone was throwing a party again. It doesn't matter. I'm a light sleeper and I woke up. I saw the silhouette of the woman next to me. I saw the sheets rise and fall with her breath. I knew I'd gone to bed alone. I didn't know who this freak was. Maybe some homeless woman who snuck into my apartment. Whatever she was, I decided she was the cause of all the shit that had been happening these past weeks. I was about to yell at her when she opened her eyes and saw me. Her shriek nearly pierced my eardrums. I rolled out of bed and reached for the Glock I keep tucked under my mattress. Yeah, I know, but if I was going to get jacked by some arsehole, might as well be prepared, right? My reaction was out of instinct. There was an intruder in my bed, in my house. I was in my rights to defend myself. I wasn't trying to hit her, but be damned if I wasn't going to scare her off. I shot once, the bullet flying towards the wall behind her. Something was wrong. I smelled the sweet scent of the gunpowder. I saw the flash of light from the gunshot, but I didn't hear the piercing sound of the explosion. I'm not saying like it was in the movies when a murderer uses a silencer and all you hear is a little pop. I mean there was no sound at all. Like I hadn't fired, but yet I felt the recoil and smelt the smoke. I peered over the edge of the bed. She was gone. The shell casing was at my feet, but the bullet was nowhere to be seen. I don't know what's going on, but it's freaking me out. Does anyone have any advice? I don't believe none of that supernatural crap, but I swear this shit happened. I can't explain it. I need help.